So let's get real for a second. Can you actually build serious muscle on a diet of just plants? For years, the conventional wisdom in every gym basically said, no way. But the science? Well, it's been telling a very different story. Today, we're going to tear down the myths, look at the hard evidence, and give you a science-backed playbook for building muscle on a plant-based diet. Let's dive in.
Here's how we're going to break this all down. We'll kick things off with the big debate itself. Then we need to understand the basic science of how muscle grows, period. From there, we'll tackle the specific challenges people talk about with plant protein. And then, this is the good part, we'll build the step-by-step playbook to crush those challenges. We'll top it off with what the latest long-term studies actually say.
All right, first up, before we get into all the how-tos, we have to address the elephant in the room. We need to understand why this has been such a heated debate for so long in the first place. This right here, this is the question. And look, if you're watching this and you're a little skeptical, that's totally fair. For decades, the default answer in weight rooms and even in a lot of nutrition circles was a pretty firm no. Animal protein was seen as the gold standard. But the science has come a long way, and it's painting a much, much more interesting picture now.
Okay, so before we start comparing a scoop of whey to a bowl of lentils, we have to get on the same page about how our muscles work. The principles for muscle growth are totally universal. They apply to everyone, no matter what's on your plate. Everything, and I mean everything, revolves around this one biological process, muscle protein synthesis, or MPS. The easiest way to think about it is like a construction crew inside your body. When you lift weights, you create tiny little bits of damage in your muscle fibers. MPS is the crew that comes in, uses the protein you ate as building blocks, and not only repairs that damage, but builds the muscle back even stronger and bigger than before. But here's the catch. Building up is only half the story. At the very same time, your body is also breaking down old, used-up muscle tissue. We call that muscle protein breakdown. So think of it like a constant tug-of-war. For you to actually build muscle, the building up process, MPS, has to be happening faster than the breaking down process. Our entire goal with training and nutrition is to keep that scale tipped heavily in favor of building. Okay, so now that we get the science, we can finally tackle the big arguments against plant-based diets. If building muscle is all about tipping that scale, why has plant protein always been seen as the underdog? Well, it turns out there are a few very specific scientific reasons people point to. When you dig into the research, the protein quality debate really boils down to three main challenges. First, some plant proteins can be a little harder for our bodies to digest and absorb. Second, many plant sources are considered incomplete, which just means they're a bit low in one or more of the essential amino acids our body needs. And third, they tend to be lower in one very, very important amino acid called leucine. This chart here really sums up the classic argument perfectly, right? You've got animal protein on one side, which scores high across the board. Easy to digest, has all the essential amino acids in high amounts, and it's loaded with leucine. Then on the other side, a single plant source by itself can sometimes look a little less impressive on paper. These differences are exactly what has fueled this whole debate for years. And let's just zoom in on that leucine point because it is absolutely crucial. You should think of leucine as the ignition key for your car. It's the specific amino acid that acts as the primary signal, the anabolic trigger that tells your body, hey, it's time to fire up that muscle-building machinery. If you don't have enough leucine, that construction crew we talked about just kind of stands around waiting for instructions. So those are the hurdles: digestibility, amino acid profiles, and that all-important leucine trigger. It kind of sounds like a strong case against plants, doesn't it? But here's the cool part. Modern science doesn't just identify problems, it gives us the solutions. So now, let's build the playbook for how to wing. The entire evidence-based strategy really comes down to these three simple but totally non-negotiable pillars. If you can get these three things right consistently, the research is clear. You can absolutely build muscle just as effectively. Pillar number one is simple. You have to eat enough food. Your body cannot build new muscle tissue out of thin air. It's an incredibly energy-expensive process. The science suggests that a consistent daily surplus of around 400 to 800 calories above what you need to maintain your weight is the sweet spot to fuel that new growth. All right, pillar two is the big one. This is probably the most important part of the whole puzzle. You must hit your total daily protein target. The research has really honed in on this, and the magic number appears to be right around 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of your body weight each day. You gotta hit this number. And pillar number 3 is all about being smart with your food choices to overcome those hurdles we talked about earlier. This means eating a wide variety of high-quality plant proteins throughout the day. Things like seitan, tofu, and lentils are absolute powerhouses. By mixing and matching sources like these, you essentially create your own complete amino acid profile over the course of the day, ensuring you get plenty of everything, including that critical trigger, leucine. Now, getting those 3 pillars right is the foundation. That's 90% of the game. But if you really want to optimize everything and leave no stone unturned, that's where a few strategic supplements can be a real game changer, especially for plant-based athletes. Look, a well-planned plant-based diet is incredibly nutrient-dense, but a few things just need a little extra attention. Vitamin B12 is non-negotiable. It's just not reliably found in plants. Then you've got performance boosters like creatine for energy, key minerals like iron and zinc that can sometimes be lower, vitamin D, and algae-based omega-3s. Think of these as your nutritional insurance policy. I want to give a special shout out to creatine here. Because creatine is naturally found in animal muscle tissue, people on plant-based diets naturally have lower levels of it stored in their own muscles. What that means is that when they supplement with it, the effect can be even more pronounced. It can give a really significant boost to your strength and power in the gym. So we've walked through the theory, we've acknowledged the hurdles, and we've built the playbook. But what happens when we put it all to the test in the real world with real people over weeks and months of hard training? Well, this is where the story gets really, really clear. A landmark study published in 2021 did exactly that. They took 2 groups of people, put them both through the same tough lifting program, and fed them both high-protein diets. The only difference? One group got their protein from vegan sources, the other from a mix of animal and plant foods. And their conclusion, which you can see right here, was a bombshell. As long as people ate enough total protein, the source simply didn't make a difference. So let's just boil this all down to one single massive takeaway. When total protein intake is matched, when both groups are hitting that target of around 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight, the muscle and strength gains are the same. Period. The science shows that a well-formulated plant-based diet is just as effective as an omnivorous one for getting bigger and stronger. The total amount you eat trumps where it comes from. The science is in. The path is clear. It's not just a theory anymore, it's a proven reality. Building serious muscle on a plant-based diet isn't just possible, we now have the exact scientific playbook to make it happen. Yes, it takes a little planning, but the old excuses and myths are officially being retired by new evidence. So with this playbook in your hands, the only real question left is, what's stopping you?